Oh yeah, it's painting time. Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Painting of the Magma Lion mini. In the rules as written, because this came with one of my Dungeon in a Box modules, this is meant to be a Magma Hound, but the mini is very clearly a lion, so we're going to run with that. Now to get started painting, you're going to want rinse water, brushes, a palette of some kind to like mix your paints on, and your paint. You can buy special purpose paints meant for minis, but I actually use these cheap craft store acrylics. Why, you ask? Well, the clue was in the name. They're cheap. Now to walk you through some of the techniques I'm doing here. I usually prime with watered down black paint. You can get official primers, but again, cheap. So, I use this brush here. It's fairly large for working with minis, but that actually makes it really good for priming and for doing washes. And I will do some washes later on. Now, just make sure for now that whatever primer you're using gets really deep into all of the cracks and crevices and crannies and all of it, right? You want to clean your brush after you've done that, and then as the paint dries, you can kind of run the dry brush over your mini to help make sure you don't get any thick spots of paint, make sure it's a nice thin layer drying on there. That's really going to be ideal because you don't want to lose too much of the texture and the definition of your mini as you're painting it. You're going to want to let that dry for, I'll be honest, a little bit longer than I did. I kind of rushed it and the colors weren't as vibrant at the end as I would have liked because of it. So probably give it like an hour minimum. I probably gave this closer to 20 to 30 minutes, and that it was still a little bit tacky, and it meant that the colors blended more than I would have liked. I don't want the colors to mix together and get kind of muddy. I want bright, distinct colors, and I didn't quite get that this time. Now, use the same technique that you used for the primer, and we're now going to do what's called a wash. So I did a red wash. A wash is kind of the watering down their paint again. You want it to be able to seep into all the little cracks and crevices. Okay. Also, as you're doing this, make sure you put some paper down. This protects your work surface, gives you a way to dry off your brushes, and is something I should have done from the beginning. Kinda not great that I waited until partway into the project to do this. So, this mini has a lava-like surface of cracks and crevices along its skin. And so that's the big reason why I really want to have this be a wash. I really want to get down in there with these colors, and with the colors that I've got, really make this feel like I've got black rock with kind of veins of red kind of showing through. You know how magma kind of looks in the cartoons. So, doing that, I'm going to do a couple of passes because I'm trying to get red to show up on black. And so it's going to take a few tries to really get that to sink in the way that it really should. Right? And again, you can take this brush once you've cleaned it off and pass it over dry and clean to try and make sure you're not just getting clumps of red paint stuck to the thing, because that paint does have mass, and that lump of red paint, if you let it dry on there, is going to change the figure and the silhouette of what you're working on. Now that we've got that red deep into the cracks and crevices, the next thing I want to do is reapply some black to the upper surfaces. For this, I'll be using my dry brush. Haha, if you can see that there. It is very frayed. Ideally, you want it to look more like a pom-pom. This is still kind of a cone, but it's developing towards an ideal dry brush. You want to get it into your paint and splotch a lot of the paint off before just kind of lightly passing it over the surface. This does the exact opposite of the wash. It helps make sure that the color you're applying doesn't get deep into all those cracks and crevices. And so that's why I want to use it for this. So I've got red deep down in it and black just on the surface, not covering up the red that's down in those lines and crevices. Now I went back and forth having to do red wash and then black dry brushing, and then let that dry into another pass of the red wash, and I was trying to really dial it in and get it right, and that's not the ideal way to do this. I did lose some texture on the mini in the process. By the time I realized I had to make a second pass, there wasn't much I could do. It did need the second pass, but it would have been better if I'd been able to pull it off in one pass of each. Now, meanwhile, I took my detail brush here, if you can see that, very small, painted the face in yellow. And then to make it look like fire, I did the mane in red, and then did a lighter pass of orange, and then a slightly lighter pass of yellow, and then an even lighter pass than that of blue at the very tips. Did some red in the mouth and some bone white for the fangs, and this guy here is about done. Now in this finished one, you can see that the red is kind of hinted at in the cracks, but it's not a big, vibrant red showing through the black. And that's a result of my impatience as I was painting this. I had to do the red wash to black dry brush process a couple of times to get it as close as I could get it to what I wanted. Please learn from my mistakes. Give it time to dry, and really be careful when you're doing that dry brush layer. Now I've had requests for this sort of thing on here before, especially from Aurora's Art World, so thanks Aurora for putting my feet to the fire on this one. I hope you all enjoyed this, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see any more mini painting in the future. Be happy to do some more. Thanks for watching. See you guys later. Thank you for watching. Please share the video with a friend or several friends, and let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see me draw in a future video. Later, y'all!